right here.
Powder and makeup. Action.
Good morning and welcome to the Parks, Arts and Transparency and Education Subcommittee is called to order. Will staff please note that all board members are present or all council people are present with the exception of Councilwoman Gallego. Valenzuela. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in all the different meetings. Do we have any public comment? We do not. Okay. We need to approve the minutes of January 28th meeting.
Move to approve. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, okay.
All right.
Yay!
Might be the only one you get today. I don't
Making
know.
progress.
I think so, we are making progress. That is 3-0, please. For those watching at home, the items related to the agenda are on the screen. You can contact my office at 602-262-7447 if you'd like more information or any of the reports that are listed. Items 3 through 9 are on the consent agenda. Are there any questions about items on today's consent agenda?
Just a question on number 4.
Okay.
So we have allocated a little over $7 million for this year. How about for the following years? Is there funding allocated, or where would the funding come from for the following years?
Chairperson Pastor, Councilman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee, I'm Deanna Jonovich, Deputy City Manager. I have with me Mo Gallegos, who's the Human Services Director, and he can respond to the current year funding and then the funding for the following year and where it comes from.
Madam Chair and Councilman Nowakowski, yes, this is the annual funding for the Department of Economic Security. The reason we have in this item is that they have released a request for award. So this is the funding that we get as a community action program. The little over $7 million that is in the current year is expected to be flat for the following year. It does vary each year, though, so we'll find out more as we go through the year. Typically, around mid-year, the Department of Economic Security does a mid-year amendment where they do some adjustments to the budget, but basically we expect it to be flat.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that
Absolutely.
we're not approving something this year and then next year we're searching for that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Councilman Waring has a question also.
On number 6, this is more of a safety thing than anything else, right?
Item 6. Are we going to item 6? You don't have a question on 4, because item 6 is a different one.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move to item 6.
It said 3 to 9 are consent, and you.
No, I know.
It's a
but
different-
I thought you were
we
taking questions on
talking-
all consent items.
We are, but
Oh,
we were
different.
talking on 4, so
Oh.
now we need to bring out item.
Deanna is all-knowing. I thought she might know the answer to the question I was going to ask. I don't know.
It's a great
You
day
threw me.
today.
So
We're
I
all
was
in
just,
sync.
I was, Madam Chairman, I was just asking at number 6, has safety components, right? About crossing, this is the item we've discussed earlier.
Yes. Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Waring, Councilman Nowakowski. Yes, indeed, there are safety elements in this public art project. I'm going to ask Ed Lebo, our Public Art Director, to describe in some greater detail.
Madam Chair and Vice Mayor Waring, this is an important project for the city. It's to improve safety along the Grand Canal corridor through the heart of Phoenix from about 15th Avenue on the west to 16th Street, and then over in the area of Van Buren. It will hopefully set a model for how canal crossings can be along our arterials to improve bicycle safety, walkers.
They look dangerous to me right now.
We have bicycled
You're talking
them.
16th Street, 7th Street, Central, I don't notice as much, 7th Avenue, definitely, they all have crossings and people go flying through there and so forth. So this is going to help with that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm good.
Any other questions? Any other items?
If you goad me, I'll think of some.
No,
All
I'm
right.
stopping. Okay, so is there a motion to approve items 3 through 9 on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, all those in,
We were on a roll there for a
yeah,
while.
I know. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Everybody approves?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That 4-0 carries. Let's see. Items 10 and 11 are for information only. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for the staff before we move forward?
You know, I have a question on item number 10.
Okay. Item number 10, that's Parks and Recs.
So basically, I just wanted a little update on the RFP of the Enchanted Island contract.
Yes, sir. Madam Chairman, members of the committee, the Parks and Recreation Board at the January meeting approved staff's recommendation to issue an RFP for the 3 concession contracts at Enchanted Park: the boating concession, the pool concession, and the Enchanted Island concession.
And what is the, how long was the contract for, and was there any renewals in that contract?
Yes, the original contract was let in 1991, and it was transferred to 2 different operators. The current operators had it for approximately 10 years. There was an opportunity for a mutually agreed upon 5-year extension. Our recommendation was not to do that 5-year extension, and after this period of time to do the RFP.
And the reason for not having the 5-year extension?
Because it's been so long since we've had a competitive bid on this, and the direction and the feeling we've had from the full council and from the board is that competition's a good thing, and when there's appropriate time to do a chance for competitive action, we should do that.
I thought it was because of safety issues. Was that one of the concerns that we had?
There are a number of factors that went into that decision, yes. We've had issues on safety with the operator in the park, yes.
And what would be the other factors? Safety being one, what else?
The condition of the facility, the relationship with the operator, and then the fact that it hadn't been bid out for such a long period of time.
And I'm not sure at the Parks Board board meeting if you had community members that approached saying about all the different programs, events that this provider has provided throughout the years. I've been getting phone calls. I'm not sure if anybody else, but it used to be in my district, and now we've moved we realigned the districts, and now it happens to be in Councilmember Pastor's district. And we've been referring some of those calls to District 4. And so some of the concerns that I was hearing out there is that, are we going to make sure that in the RFP that there is that community outreach that they continue to do, especially with the nonprofit, the church groups, the foster children's fair and stuff like that, that would be a part of the RFP, that they continue that outreach and good partnerships within the community itself.
Yes, Madam Chairman and Mr. Nowakowski, yes, the RFP will ask proposers to give us a business plan. And as part of that, each proposer will be able to identify the kinds of activities or events that they would propose, and then they'll be weighted accordingly. And a recommendation we brought forward, and the Parks and Recreation Board has asked that they be continually appraised on the process and involved in it all the way through, so not just at a final decision point.
Now, who would be actually on this panel to choose the RFP? What would be the makeup part? I know you probably haven't gotten that far.
Haven't gotten that far yet,
Right.
Councilman, but the idea would be to have staff from a couple of city departments. Typically, we like to have involvement from outside just the department making the RFP, and then some community members, and then make a recommendation to the board.
No, just some suggestions is that there's been years of, I know that I'm invited to an Easter egg hunt, that I guess there's about 20,000 Easter eggs that they're going to be giving out at this Enchanted Island. There's the foster children's, and not this weekend, but next weekend. So there's been ongoing community events that maybe some of those participants or so can actually be involved, so we continue that good partnership within the community and outreach to those families that are used to those types of services, right? That would be a recommendation that I'd like to send to y'all.
Okay?
That's really it.
So my understanding is it went to the Parks Board and they approved the RFP. So it's also my understanding that if any of the Parks members have concern of the RFP, they can also have a discussion tomorrow regarding this whole process. Because for me, I entered this process in the middle of the process, and I do have concerns regarding this. I do have concerns of the fact that there was a renewal, and they have the opportunity to go for the renewal, and that we went into this RFP process. I've had these concerns from the very beginning, and I have stated it from the very beginning, and I think with those, I will speak to the chair of the Parks Board regarding this whole process. Does anybody, would you have further questions?
Well, with saying that, then you must be getting the same type of phone
I
calls
am.
I'm getting then. So the concern that I'm hearing out there is that, is this the typical process of the Parks Board to actually not allow an extension of the contract, that if you do this with all the other vendors within the parks system? And if there is a list of reasons why, and you've talked about safety, you talked about the conditions of the facility itself. I'm not sure if there's any other examples that we've done this prior to this.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, there are a variety of different contracts with the Parks Department, and some of them have renewals and some of them don't. So I'd have to go back and do some evaluation of that. We haven't had any in immediate recent past come up that have created this kind of situation.
Any other questions on item 10? Well, thank you.
I
Item,
think this person
well.
actually wants it for the item 10. She has call to the public.
I need some, because I was told this goes to call to the public, but, Penny?
I mean, we
I have a
have the
question.
operator here now. Would you like to comment about it now that we're on this issue, or would you want to wait until call to the public? The difference between talking about the issue now and talking about the call to the public is that we can't comment when it's a call to the public, but if it's on this certain agenda item, we could actually have a conversation with you. So it's up to you.
Please take the floor.
Thank you. Distinguished members of the board, with Enchanted Island Amusement Park, and been serving the public there for 25 years. And we believe that the board was not given the opportunity to review our agreement. And we believe that the board should have time to review our renew request and take all consideration into that. And I don't believe we were given that opportunity.
And why do you say that?
We
Sorry.
submitted our request in, I think, about almost a year ago, and with the expectation that our request for a renewal would enter into the board's hands and be decided on by the people whether it would be renewed or not. But it never got to that process. It stopped at the Parks Department rather than being presented to the board for the board to review and decide whether or not they'd like to move forward with the additional 5 years.
So my understanding, there are some discrepancy in this whole process, and I will speak to the chair of the board, and I know that tomorrow there is a meeting with the board, and so I am not sure if an item can get on the agenda. I know we have to have 24 hours, and we might make it, what time? The meeting's in the evening, isn't it?
It's 5 p.m.
Okay, so we will have some time to make sure it hits the 24-hour notice. So I will speak to the chair. If he's willing to put the item back on the agenda, it's up to the chair, and that's the promise I can make or deliver.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Can we actually make a recommendation as this body?
What's our legal authority since we have two boards? Or,
It's just a recommendation, it's not a mandate, right? That this subcommittee would recommend.
I don't know a precedent for that. I will tell you, Madam Chair and council members, I do know that the current operator is able to apply for this RFP process with any others that are interested. So the intent was that he could participate and offer a proposal along with other providers that would be evaluated. It is somewhat customary in the city to have renewal, have a bid process start again if it's been quite a long period of time, just to see what other possibilities are out there. We certainly would welcome a bid from anyone to be considered as part of that process. I think that was the intent of the Parks Board action last month.
well, I think, I'm not sure if that's the intent of the Parks Board, and I'm not sure if they understand what is dynamic is happening, but it is intent of the city to offer an RFP when a contract is open. And currently, this contract has the capability of a renewal. So there's a big difference in when we go out for an RFP and the contract has gone through the whole renewal process, and that's not what's happening. And so I think there's some discrepancies within this process that we need to look at before we move ahead with this RFP. But that would be my recommendation to the chair of the park, since we don't have the authority.
Ms.
I think we certainly could have that conversation after the meeting about making sure your concerns are addressed. I don't know that a motion is necessary. We
Oh, no,
we hear what
I'm
you're
just-
saying.
I think that's our recommendation.
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure that we take a lot of pride as a council being transparent and open and making sure all of our processes are open. So I've been hearing from individuals that it seems like it's not an open process. That there was a vetting process during this whole thing. That a lot of people, when they apply for an RFP and they have such an overhead of equipment, facilities and stuff like that, that they bank on that renewal to make sure that it's cost effective to actually apply for that RFP. Unless there's some type of a violation of that contract or safety issues or whatever, then I would agree that I want to understand why there wasn't an automatic renewal.
Okay.
And if there is some type of reasoning not to renew it automatically, then that's what I like to hear. And I think we need to be very open about it, transparent about it, and not having people feel that we're kind of rushing a process and not having community input. And that's what we're hearing from the community, from nonprofit organizations, from users to vendors. So I just want to make sure it's transparent, it's open, and that the Parks Board really has the opportunity to hear from all sides, and that we're not just being one-sided on this issue.
Okay. My understanding, Madam Chair, was that the last time this was bid was in 1991. That was 24 years ago. In my experience in working with other RFP processes, that is a rather long time, but we can certainly look into this further and see what questions need to be answered still.
Well, I agree that it's a long time, but in the contract, there is a renewal, and there's a 5-year renewal, and another 5 years, it'll make it 25, as we did 25-year contracts that are currently still operating. And I'm sure if we look at our precedent or look at some history of any of those contracts that have 25 years, we're probably not going through this process. There was probably a renewal.
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer.
I understand that, but actually, you can't answer it, but I would like to know that information.
You can find out.
Thank you.
And just one other thing for clarification, seeing that the vendors here, I was informed that there was an accident that happened, and that sparked all this. And that's what sparked my concern about the whole incident. And I just wanted some clarification about that incident. Was there actually a person that lost their finger or was amputated or anything like that?
No, sir. There was an incident. We operate a children's amusement park. We go through safety training. We go through different processes to mitigate liability, to do all these different things. And what happened that day was there was a cut on a finger, and there was an attorney with very large hopes. So instead of it being a cut, it was an amputation. Instead of it being that Mr. and Mrs. Lyon called the paramedics, it was that they didn't. And have all the records to show that everything that they said was incorrect.
Just
The
for
finger
record,
was not ripped off, it was
I
not,
was going to ask, all right?
no.
Thank you. That's all.
Madam Chair, may I say something, please? Thank you. I appreciate the concerns of my colleagues, and I think, transparency is important. I'd like to see the information as well. I also would like to state that, 25 years is a long time to assume that it's going to be the same vendor, with all due respect, sir, for any service. In fact, many of the service here at the City of Phoenix, many times it's discussed amongst the council on whether it should be sent out to the private sector, and, is there a hybrid out there? What type of public-privates do we have? I mean, 25 years is a long time, and I think it's okay to bring in, just to make sure that we are providing the best possible service. Competition is a good thing. We have a fiduciary responsibility as a city, I believe, to provide the best possible service, and sometimes that is done through an RFP process, through an open competition, in which I'm sure the current vendor would be allowed to participate as well. So I for one, I'm listening to all that is going on, and I don't know if there's anything wrong with having an open process. In fact, I'm glad, and I commend our city staff for, many times our city staff is criticized and even accused many times of doing things where you're just sort of going through the motions and collecting a long list of 5-year renewals, But in this case, I don't see that. So I commend our city staff for being diligent and just realizing that we have, a fiduciary responsibility to provide the best possible service, and, I'm okay with it. So, but, that being said, I think let's go ahead and get the information. But if it's recommended by our city staff that we go out after so many years, I think that's a positive thing. And again, regardless of whatever the item may be, right now we're talking about this particular park, but it could be a number of services that the city provides, senior centers or whatever else. So
There's also something that I'm not sure that the council's aware of. We took out about a $750,000 loan to purchase all the equipment to put into this park. It was an SBA loan, guaranteed. Because of the downed economy, we had to change the arrangements of that loan. So now we're set on June 1st, the entire loan note is due. So Canto Adventures would not be able to participate in the process, as that loan will be due June 1st. So the RFP process for us is not a choice, because the bank's going to repossess, sell all the equipment, and then I don't know what we'll have left after that. So I just thought everyone should know.
thank you.
Go ahead.
And just a comment to the operator, it's not your fault. It was actually our colleagues that were sitting behind this desk 25 years ago that seen that the RFP should have lasted 25 years. We have RFPs out there for 50 years that have renewals for another 50 years, where we have
Right.
universities and baseball fields and stuff like that. So it really depends on each situation. And I understand that unless there's some type of emergency reason or so, but that's not on you. That 25 years, there was some kind of mathematical equation that made sense at that time that made you go out there and get that type of loan for that type of infrastructure. and the commitment that we as the city of Phoenix made to you as an operator. And I
Yes.
think that's one of the things that I'm concerned about. If in the future, if we're going to commit to a university or to a sports team or anything, that we keep our word unless there's something on your side that you didn't keep your
Correct.
side of the deal.
I agree. And our term was 10 years. I just happened to be there for 25. So it was a 10-year term with a 5-year extension. 10 years typically would have been to pay off the loan. The extra 5 would have been where the concessionaire entered into a profitability stage and began to be able to reinvest into the park. And that's what we hope to do.
Well, thank you. I will speak with the chair, and we'll see if this item can get on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, further questions?
No.
Okay. No questions on item 11? Thank you. Item 12, Park CIP review for information and discussion. Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So taking the opportunity this morning to give you an update on the capital improvement program for the Parks and Recreation Department. And I'd like to walk you through a little bit of background and then some history, and then make a recommendation for moving forward and ask for some comments or advice from this committee on whether or not that goal or that proposal is something that meets with your approval. So in the general plan, the Parks Department's laid out like this. We have neighborhood parks that are generally in size 10 to 20 acres. That's not exact or precise. It's just a planning target. Community parks that are 40 to 60 acres. The district parks are great big parks like Encanto Park and Cesar Chavez Park that are well over 100 acres. And then our open space parks for preserves and our desert parks. And I gave examples of each one there. That's not a comprehensive list. It's just a for example of each of those categories of park. So we look at our park system, we think of it like this. We have 160 traditional parks, which are the grassland, the typical parks with grass and ball fields. About 12 basin parks that are brought to us really as partnership with the Streets Department and the Flood Control District that look like parks, act like parks, but they fill up with rainwater. So their really primary first function is storm detention basin. That's why we count them separately. Of course, our preserved lands, which are nationally recognized, and then the 22 specialty areas are things like Torbria Castle and Heritage Square, some of the really unique parks that don't fit into a category. We have 112 neighborhood and mini parks in the park system. That's the largest share that actually hits into neighborhoods, 38 community parks and 10 district parks. And then within those parks, we have a number of amenities, and I didn't list them all, but I gave you a snapshot. We have 8 golf courses, 29 pools, and 31 community centers of various sizes and complexity. So one of the things we do is we constantly look at the park system and look at the community. So this is a census map and shows in the darker shaded areas, obviously higher density where people are living. If we lay in the park system there, you'll see that 94.8% of all the residents in the community today are within a mile of one of our parks or one of our major trail systems, like the Murphy Bridle Path or one of the canal systems. And then when we lay on top of that the public school system, it's a much higher number. It's 99.7%. And we do that because if you go by a school on a weekend, you'll see Little League practice going on, flag football, Pop Warner football, and even adult sports happening in the school properties all over. So I think it's just important to think of the recreation amenities and programming holistically across the community. So we took a look back, and this is a scatter diagram that shows you all the projects we did in the last 6-7 years in the CIP. We've done park renovations and improvements, including some to our pool system. We've had a very aggressive land acquisition program in our preserves that included $93.7 million in grant money from the state of Arizona for a total of $485 million. And the size of the circles is just a relative amount of dollars spent on each project. It's not about this park system. It's just to give you a relative idea. Is that your question?
That was going to be my question, but you anticipated my question.
Okay. So we think we've got a pretty good coverage across the community. And then just to...
Well, can we go back to that for a second?
Yes, sir.
So the bigger circles, is that building a whole new park? I mean, is that the way
Not necessarily. It might be a renovation. It might be land acquisition. I think the one up in your district was really the preserve land acquisition identifier because we've been buying a lot of preserve up there. Right. The one out very far west is the new park at Camelback Ranch, the Dust Devil Park. So that is a brand new park, but they're not always that reason. Sometimes it's a renovation or an improvement of the park. And
I remember hearing it. How much does it cost to open a new park? if you're just starting from scratch.
There's no one single number.
I figured that was the case. I mean,
But
is there
for-
a kind of
for-
ballpark is really more what I was asking.
Yes, so the Camelback Ranch Park that we just opened, it's actually called Dust Devil Park on 107th Avenue in Camelback. 12-acre park, notwithstanding the land acquisition, because we bought the land 20 years ago for it. But the development of the park was about $4, $5, $6 million. So that for a fully developed, everything we expected to go into that park is
And
probably
what
a
would you
pretty close
expect?
number.
So that would be, I assume, playground equipment, grass.
Courts,
a
skate
walk.
park, parking lot, all the restrooms and utilities, the area lights, yes, sir. On that park, the only thing we didn't do that we had planned with the community is a community center. But the school next door is doing that, and we're partnering with them and for access for that, so we don't have to build it. And then they have 2 fields next door, and we're going to go in and with an IGA light their fields in the next fiscal year. And then we'll have lighted ball fields. So that park will have all amenities you'd expect at a much higher level park. It just happens to be the way that one works out.
And there, I thought this would be a good time, sorry to interrupt your flow, but so one thing I've been asked about in my district is bathrooms at parks. And I think we've talked about this before, or somebody from your staff. You know, that was pretty expensive. So like at the Camelback one, it's $4, $5, $6 million to do the whole park. How much are restroom facilities?
The current price for our standard restroom is about $250,000 for the building. And then when you bring all the utilities and the site work to it, it's easily over $300,000.
And that's what I remembered from our conversation.
And we get a lot of reaction to that, probably you do too, that that's such a big number. And why is that? But
And
part
it's
of
not
it,
the coolest thing. It's not a new piece of equipment. It's not, and I understand why there's pushback, but obviously people take little kids to parks.
Yeah.
You know, that's for ball teams or whatever.
and basically they're unmonitored facilities that sit out there 24 hours a day. And so we make them almost bomb-proof. And you're right, as if there's an adult softball league and they've had some adult beverages and they're walking around in aluminum bats, porcelain fixtures that you would buy at Home Depot and for your home would not survive. So we put in the stainless, and we don't do mirrors, and the things that hang on the wall have to be recessed. So there's expenses that go into that. It's a very carefully designed element because it's out there in the public being used fairly rigorously every
And
day.
don't take this as criticism at all. Of course, some parents have been like, well, if I take my kid out there, and now I have to leave. Or if we have a game, now I have to leave if there's no bathroom. So I just please always keep in mind, you know, I brought a couple of these requests, and I know it's an expensive thing, but it's something you gotta have.
It's something, and in the past 50 years, we didn't put bathrooms at every single park. We
Right.
really put them in the bigger parks, and we're going back and readdressing that because of just what you're describing. Families go to all the parks.
It
so
modifies behavior. I mean, it just does. If you have a little baby or something, I mean, if there's no place to
have to
change.
go home,
You know,
And it is something we hear from the community, and I'll get to that in a minute in the community survey. One of the number one things we hear about is public restrooms.
I'm not surprised.
Not only the frequency and availability of them, but how cleanly they are.
But I understand your concern of keeping it viable and maintaining it, because unfortunately, just a few people trash it, and then you gotta replace and so forth.
No further questions on this slide. I'll go to the next one, which just to give you an idea of the kind of projects we've worked on in that same period of time. So we've done a lot of playgrounds, a lot of restrooms, not all of them in the park system, but quite a few. Ramadas, courts lighting, which is a big demand from our community. Security lighting, which is a high priority for us because safety is such a prominent issue in all the parks. And then infrastructure like parking lots and irrigation that's going on. In addition, we've been buying land, as I mentioned, in the preserve and doing a lot of trail work. These are 73 miles of new trails we've done under contract. In addition, we've just let a contract this year that will do maintenance at all 200 miles of existing trails. And some of those trails have been out there 80 or 100 years and haven't been maintained regularly. So this is really an exciting advance for us. So getting to your question, one of the things we did was a survey in 2014. We also did one in 2010. And then what it told us is the community really likes our parks. They feel safe. They enjoy them. But they recognize that public restrooms are a challenge, both the availability of them and the cleanliness of them. And then safety, security lighting, which is a big issue for the community, and then children's playground. Those are the things we hear most directly from the community. We've also done a consultant study of all of our sports field lighting. Some of the poles that have been out there, they're steel poles. In the old standard, they were bolted onto concrete pedestals and just the irrigation hit them every day. They rusted and some of them are falling. So we're looking at that as a safety and security issue. And then security, just the lighting in all parks, I'll talk about in a little bit too, is a real high priority for us. And then we looked at all of our master plans, the existing master plans, proposed ones, modified ones, and use that as well as our own staff inventory of what needs are out there. So we've gone and looked at every one of our parks and looked at the major amenities, the restrooms, the playgrounds, the sidewalks, and costed out what it would take to repair the ones that need upgrading and come up with a master list. It's staggering how large it is, but then we sorted it down into priorities and come up with some recommendations. So how we approach projects, we do it one of two ways. We have historically gone and done individual projects with funding available. It might be grant funding, it might be CDBG, it might be Parks Bonds or 3PI. And so this is an example of one park we did where we did 5 different projects over the course of a number of years and hit many amenities at Sueño Park and got it tuned up and almost completely redeveloped as a result. Another method we do is where we just go in and hit a park all in one fiscal year and do all those amenities at one time. And we did that most recently with the Hermoso Park project, where we took down a community center, restroom buildings, rebuilt the whole park, and did it all in 1 year. The pros and cons to the two methods, they're depending on funding stream, but also impacts the community and their availability to use that park. If it's completely fenced in a construction site, no one can be there for a year and a half. But if you're doing a sequence of projects, you're just affecting people as you go. So we do it both ways depending on the project and the priority from the community and the council. So one of our ideas is to try to take a look at all this information we have, all these cost estimates, and all the parks in our inventory, and look at a comprehensive way to make an impact to the community. And what I'd like to suggest is that we work on a 10-year plan to hit the remaining neighborhood and mini parks that we have not affected in the park system. That totals 64 parks. And we would hit 51 neighborhood parks and 13 mini parks. It's not a complete rebuild of every park, but it's a hitting of the priority elements that we've identified in each of those parks over the course of these years. And if we did that, it would look something like this. Over every fiscal year, we would do a number of projects. In the early years, it would be some of the more cost-effective, more expensive, larger projects. In the later years, we'd be doing multiple projects. But we believe if we did this, in the course of that 10 years, we'd hit 60% of the residents in the community would be affected by a park nearby their house. And how that might look in an actual CIP would be to take our 3PI program, which is the majority of the money we have available for capital improvement, hit these priorities in the park system, and on a 2-year program, because the Parks and Preserve Initiative is a pay-as-you-go, it's from the sales tax, we do a 2-year look ahead on that. And if we were to do projects throughout the city, hitting these priorities and following that precept from the previous slide, this is what it might look like. And we'd like to get feedback from the council on that.
Councilman Waring?
Is this a rank order prioritization, the lists?
Yes, that's how we did that with each amenity and in each project, and then tried to look at the whole system and create that.
I guess I.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
So there are some
Apologize.
projects that aren't identified that'll just happen citywide. One of the efforts I'm trying to do is tag on the proposal that Streets is working on for an LED relamping of the whole city street system.
Right.
If we can also go into that RFP and relight every security lighting in every city park and finance that over 10 years, then we hit every park on
And
the
that's
map.
with the more efficient light bulbs and everything. I
Exactly.
mean, it saves us money if you look
Save
at
utility costs, right,
We
get
get that
better
money
lighting,
back. I
safety.
mean,
I think we'll get it back
it.
in
You
a
know
number
how
of
cheap I
years.
am and everything, but that actually makes sense when you look at it long
Thank you.
term, assuming the items work the way they're supposed to. I will say about, because we were talking about, and it is an issue that my constituents have brought up, but I also think makes sense. The restroom renovations, does that mean only doing only fixing up restrooms where we already have restrooms? Because one thing I would encourage, how many parks, do you have a percentage of how many parks don't have restrooms at all?
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I'll get it for you, but it's,
I mean, I know money is limited and so forth, and $300,000 a pop, but I mean, if we have a lot of parks that don't have any restrooms, you know, that needs to be, because I do think people, they've told me, and I can agree, that the park that we use, we have 4-year-old twins, is conveniently located very close to my house, so that's fine. You know, we could always go home, but you know, most people aren't living right next to a park or very close to a park, and so if they're going home, they're not coming back, or it's just, it might impact the experience. We don't want that. I definitely think if you don't have any restroom at all, that's a bigger problem than gussing up a restroom, than fixing up a restroom that's already there. Take my point. So
I think our program was to look at both, but we can refocus that based on your input to look
I mean,
at
I
the
guess
ones.
I just like to see more specific on the plan when it's ready and just see what you're doing. And then if you could identify, obviously I'm, you know, most concerned about my own district. I want won't kid you about that, but I am kind of curious just to see maybe a map or something of, this one doesn't have a restroom at all. This one has a restroom that we're thinking about fixing up. So we can prioritize, I don't want to micromanage, but I at least want to be able to have my input heard on this kind of list. I mean, the security lighting, that's definitely irrigation efficiencies. That's another one where you can really, anybody who's ever had the sprinkler system at home, I mean, that can make a big difference if you do it right.
We're saving.
I'm
just
glad
to-
those are at the top. Makes
Thank you,
sense.
sir. Just as a side note, last year we invested $500,000 in irrigation efficiency, touched 33 parks approximately, but we were able to save $500,000, which the manager allowed us to reinvest in the park system to continue irrigation efficiencies. This year, we're
Remember,
continuing
that was a
that
big
process.
success. Yeah, really. Hats
Trying to
off for
continue that,
That's
so we
good.
save the resource and we save dollars on the cost of water,
And you
although.
spent 500,000 and you save 500,000.
Yes, sir. That
And the
first year.
500,000 is ongoing,
Every year.
right? It's every year. I mean, that's what I'm saying to the people out there who don't realize what you can do. I mean, it makes a big difference with that capital investment, which isn't inconsiderable, but you're getting that back every single year and can be used for parks elsewhere. So,
We're continuing that effort this year.
Any other questions? Councilman Noakowski?
Yeah, a question I have is on this survey, one of the things I hear from my district all the time is that we need more soccer fields or football fields, and that every time somebody's trying to reserve a soccer field or a football field, that they're all booked, right? So I don't see that as one of the, when we did the resident survey, that's not one of the items on there. We have the West Side Sports Complex right off of 91st Avenue in McDowell. That's not a city facility, but that soccer fields, I mean, there's about good 13 or 14 soccer fields out there every single Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I mean, those things are jam-packed, filled. It's privately owned, so I'm not sure what they're doing to actually, I believe they're operating it somehow, some way with a profit margin. If not, I don't think they would be offering that service. So maybe if we can look at best practices throughout the city and within the country and figure out, we have Reach 11, that's a great complex. But what we're hearing is residents from the Maryville, South Phoenix, to travel all the way to Reach 11 is kind of far, and that they're looking for something like that here. We have that at Oso Park. We have it at in our West Side complex also,
Desert West.
Desert West. But those things are always jam-packed and filled, right?
It's a great point, Councilman, Madam Chairman. One of the survey items I didn't mention was ball fields and ball field lighting. It was about the fourth or fifth item.
Okay.
So it's very high on the community's radar. You're right, the number of fields we have today are almost 100% utilized because of demand and our maintenance schedule. You just can't use them 24/7. You have to allow some time for mowing the grass and watering and maintaining it. We do have some long-term plans, and I'd be glad to sit down with you and show you that. But we have the property at 99th and Lower Buckeye. It's a 100-acre complex. It's not built yet, so when we get a chance to capitalize that and be able to maintain it, we're going to be able to do a kind of sports complex there that would really help draw off the west side. We're doing some additions this year at Cesar Chavez Park, which I think you're familiar with. And then long-term, we're talking about a partnership with ADOT, with the 202 freeway as it comes around the South Mountain. If there's a potential there to do with ADOT and their detention basin parks. Of course, that'll be the first priority, be able to catch stormwater for the freeway. But if they can shape it and give us size and give us reasonable access, we can put fields in that and then not have to acquire property. So it's something we're very excited about that long-term may be able to help address the need you're identifying.
And last comment, I really want to thank our staff, especially our park staff. I mean, the wonderful job that you all are doing with, I know that we had some major cuts back in 2010, and the quality of service that we're still providing to those residents. I mean, from baseball, soccer, volleyball to our baseball fields. I mean, the quality's still there. Our staff's working very hard, and I know that we're shorthanded, and hopefully things turn around. But I really want to thank you guys for all your hard work and providing the quality of life that we all enjoy and continue to do that. And those hiking trails, it's just incredible to see how many hiking trails we have. And it's been over, you're talking about 100 years that we've had these hiking trails and nobody's touched them. So, thank you for really looking at improving what we have and looking into the future also.
So that's the conclusion of our presentation. Thank you for doing that and appreciate everything, all the wonderful things that the Parks department is doing, especially for the public. So thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 13, Arts and Culture CIP Review. Hi, Gail.
Hello. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, we're here to talk about the Office of Arts and Culture's capital plan. Arts and Culture manages 2 capital programs, specific projects within the Cultural Facilities Bond Program and a public art program. The 2001 and 2006 bond programs designated a number of important cultural facilities to build or renovate, and our office provided oversight to many of these projects, including new buildings for the Arizona Opera, Ballet Arizona, Black Theater Troupe, and substantial renovations to the Arizona Science Center, Phoenix Art Museum, and Phoenix Theater. And these projects have been completed. We have 2 projects in this year's CIP budget, approximately $50,000 for the Carver Museum, and over $1 million is available for a future Hispanic Cultural Center. The Public Art Plan has its foundation in the 1986 Percent for Art Ordinance. For every dollar spent on capital improvement projects, 1 penny is designated for public art. And over the past 29 years, we've worked with nearly every department in the city of Phoenix on improving the form and function of public buildings, spaces, and infrastructure. The Public Art Plan is a 5-year rolling plan you'll see here. This is a look at the budgetary impact of the 2013 to 2019 plan the City Council approved in July. To give you an update of where we are at this moment, there are 56 projects in the current 5-year plan, the design and construction of which total over $9 million. 38 of these 56 projects are budgeted in the current fiscal year, and others are planned for future years. And 28 of the 38 projects in this year's budget are currently in progress. When we come back to you in May with the 2015-2020 Public Art Plan, you'll see updated figures on how much of this year's budget moves forward to next fiscal year. I'd now like to ask Ed Lebo, our Public Art Director, to talk to you a little bit about some of our current projects.
Thank you, Gail, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. There are 2 recently completed projects that I think all of you are aware of. The beautiful floors at the Terminal 3 SkyTrain station done by Arizona artist Janelle Stanley, and also the Pinnacle Peak Reservoir, which is in North Phoenix, District 2, done by Arizona artists Nina Solomon and Heidi Dauphin. There are recently approved contracts that have come before this committee and are underway. The 7th Avenue Streetscape Project has been a very successful involvement of school kids at Osborne Middle School. It resulted in poetry that will be out on 7th Avenue. 107th Avenue Streetscape Project will be moving ahead and working with that community, and also the Influx Project, a temporary project featuring Arizona artist Eric Booz. That is now on view at one of the storefronts at the convention center right across from Herberger Theater. We have major projects in construction and design. Hatcher Road Streetscape will be installed in the coming weeks. The Roosevelt Streetscape Project, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a future slide, will be installed in the coming months. And then the Desert Sky Transit Center is in construction, and artist Mary Lucking has been working with the team to develop some beautiful shade structures and courtyard features for that center. Major projects in design, we have Pueblo Grande Museum. There will be a new entrance that provides visitors easy access out to the light rail stop at 44th Street and Washington. The Deer Valley Water Treatment Plant, which will really help to improve the streetscape along Dunlap Avenue in front of that very long wall at the water treatment plant. And then Avenida Rio Salado, artists have been working with a fairly significant team to provide shaded seating areas along the corridor that can be used by the residents and the public in the future. Upcoming major projects that we expect to bring before this committee and council will be recommendations of artists for the Terminal 3 modernizations. That selection panel is taking place this week. North 32nd Street Improvement Public Art Project, and then also the 27th Avenue Solid Waste Management Facility. We expect to have an artist involved in the design team there to continue the educational outreach that a lot of these projects have achieved over the years. One of the things that the commission takes very seriously, that's the Arts and Culture Commission, I know council shares this, is finding ways to get more and more Arizona artists involved in the work that we do here. 49 of the 56 projects that Gail mentioned being in the 5-year plan are expected to involve commissioning artists. We have a number of planning initiatives that will not involve that. 27 of those 49 are expected to involve Arizona artists. One of the things that we cannot do is restrict competition of ideas and the flow of people to compete for public projects. But the one thing we can do and have done over the years is find ways to partner with our local groups, local artists in workshops, pre-submittal meetings, outreach to schools and groups, temporary projects, and all of these good things that bring more and more Arizona artists into our talent pool. And I think when you look at the SkyTrain floors, the Terrazzo projects, all Arizona artists who had never done anything on that scale before. And we will continue to do that kind of outreach to improve the talent pool here and get more and more artists working not only here, but also nationwide, because people who cut their teeth on our projects here go on to have careers around the nation working for other cities. So it's an open door policy that really helps our local artists. One of the things that I know I've mentioned in the past, but is often sort of forgotten by folks in these public art projects, is most of these projects are built by our local construction trades. And even though an artist may come from outside the area, or if they're here, they rely on our talented construction workers to build what we build. We've been tracking over the last almost 9 years now the work that we've been doing, call it 8 years, the work that we've been doing with Arizona contractors. And about 84% of the funding, city funding that we invest in public art has been contracted with local firms. And about $5 million or 16% of that it goes to outside. One of the things that's very interesting, if you look at the Roosevelt Streetscape project, for instance, the artist is Mi-Jin Yoon. She's from Massachusetts. She is relying on our local construction trades to build her projects. As we speak, Talus Construction Corporation is doing the site construction along Roosevelt and doing a sensational job of that. And Magnum Companies on the west side of Phoenix is building the shade structures and doing a sensational job of that as well. So this is, I guess, the impact, the broader economic impact of these public art projects on our local workers. And that's something that I think all of us at the commission and in the office are very proud of, and we strive to encourage and increase. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the program. As Gail mentioned, we'll be coming back to you in May with an updated plan for the next 5 years and updated numbers as well.
Thank you. Anybody?
I have a comment. I just really want to thank you. I've been on the council going for 8 years now. And one of the concerns that some of my colleagues had, I didn't have the concern, but they did, is that most of the projects were happening in downtown Phoenix. And it happened in District 7, District 8. And Michael Johnson at that time and myself were really not complaining about it, but you heard those concerns. You heard that we needed to extend the program, and not just the art, but also the education component to it. So I really want to thank you for listening to all of my colleagues and the concerns that they had, and extending art beyond the central Phoenix area throughout the whole city. And you can really see with all those upcoming projects that it really is a city of Phoenix arts and culture project for the whole city. And once again, I like the term that you used, made in Arizona or made in Phoenix. And I think that's really important. That was the other thing that we were concerned about, is that we're out there telling people shop Phoenix, support local businesses, and we want to basically show that example. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for all your hard work in bringing these great projects to the whole city.
Thank you.
Councilman Valenzuela, anything?
Yeah, I want to thank you for all of the hard work. I appreciate just the element of art in literally everything. We can do that, and you do that, and you know, things like including art in bus shelters, walking trails, you know, shade structures. Just those are important things. You know, terrazzo floors. I mean, just on and on. And I think that's, you know, we are still a very young city, and as we move forward and people are looking for the identity of Phoenix, more and more people are finding that identity in something as simple as a bus shelter, because of the work that you are all putting together. And I'm fully supportive of STEAM and certainly, you know, and more of that. And also, you know, what's good for downtown is good for all districts. I really believe that. But it is important to make sure that we are making those, you know, putting those efforts into getting art throughout the city. I especially appreciate the 107th Avenue Canal project, which, you know, has been talked about for literally decades. And now having an opportunity to work directly, and we are working closely with all of the people there in that Via Paz area. You know, it's a positive discussion. We know that, you know, it's coming. It's in the plans. And on behalf of all of my constituents in District 5, I want to thank you for that. I really truly appreciate it. And you know, I'm supportive in the future as well.
Well, thank you for your support, and I should say we have great partners throughout the city. All departments that work with us and all communities they want beautiful, well-functioning, and safe public spaces, and we hope to help with that.
And interactive.
Yes.
One of the items is a future project. What is it going to take in order to get that future project up and going? Or what do we need to start doing to move it?
I think we need to continue conversations about that project. $1 million is set aside for the Hispanic Cultural Center, which is perhaps not enough to build a new building. So I think we had hoped in our office to have a public forum to bring all the community together, to have a conversation about what's needed, what would the community like to see in a cultural center, and to move forward from that place. So that's what we very much hope to do.
Okay. So it will be it'll more than likely be developed as a public-private partnership in order to get this off the ground.
Given the funding available, yes,
Yes.
that's
Okay.
likely so.
Well, thank you. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Next item is item 14, launch of Career Online High School in the library. And this is a fun and exciting new adventure we're entering into.
Good morning,
Morning.
Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you about an exciting service we are offering at the library through College Depot, which is our college access program. As part of our effort to help citizens of all ages further their education goals, we are offering an online high school for adults 21 years and older who, for whatever reason, did not receive a high school diploma. This important credential can unlock career development. College Depot is a unique library service designed to provide personalized assistance to those who want to pursue additional education. It's another example of the life-changing services that the library offers, and one of the reasons that the Phoenix Public Library is a finalist for the National Medal for Museum and Library Services. Here to tell you more about College Depot and Career Online High School is Judy Reno, Director of College Depot. Judy?
Thank you so much for having us and being able to share this cool opportunity. We're so excited to be able to address a huge need that's been growing in our community. According to a report from Measure of America back in 2012, we learned that nationally there's a huge problem with disconnected youth. And disconnected youth is defined as people between the age of 16 and 24 who are disconnected from work and from education due often to not having the skill set and employability. And here in Phoenix, the metro area, that number was 1 in 5, the worst in the country. And so it was very clear that work needed to be done to really take that even a step further, looking at the economic perspective. For each person in the Phoenix area who does not graduate, it translates into more than $450,000 in economic loss over his or her lifetime due to that lack of skill set and employability. There was a report issued by the Arizona Mayor's Education Roundtable that showcased that in the 2013 year, we lost more than 18,000 students to dropping out of high school, which would then translate to a over $7 billion economic loss to the state over their lifetimes. So we see that the need is huge, and we also know that people need the support in order to get re-engaged with continuing their education, whether that be a GED or a high school diploma. And so within the infrastructure of College Depot, we launched a re-engagement center. The concept of re-engagement centers are starting to pop up across the country. We looked at some best practice models out of Philadelphia, Boston, and also Los Angeles. So we were fortunate enough to already have the infrastructure of College Depot, so we were able to hire one caseworker too. His name is Christopher Seidel, and he's fabulous, and he's bilingual, and he comes from Phoenix Union High School District with 8 years of experience as a dropout prevention specialist. So we brought him on board, and he's been meeting with people daily to create customized education plans to connect them with a GED or high school program that's the best fit for them. So we've created databases of information, including things like cost, geographic location. Tim's office mapped it for us so that we could find the best fit for a person regardless of where they live, and even things like whether or not the classes are offered in Spanish, if childcare is available, transportation benefits, things like that. And through this, we were able to launch one more exciting initiative. Well, we're working on it now, and that is Career Online High School, which, as Rita said, is an online high school for adults, which is very unique and innovative in the sense that typically an adult only has the option to pursue a GED. Now there's this new opportunity out of Career Online High School, which has a national accreditation, so as opposed to a state accreditation. And that provides the opportunity for an actual high school diploma to be earned, along with a career certificate. And the students are assigned to an academic coach to help them along through the program. It's online, it's self-paced, so depending on how many high school credits they have achieved, they could graduate anywhere between 5 months and 18 months. However, you would not even have to have gone to high school at all. You could enter the program with just an 8th grade education, and that would take the entire 18 months to complete. The students do have a choice of 8 different career paths for doing their career certification, which is an extra motivator because it helps students to be able to get connected with workforce after completing the program, or as our hope would be, to get connected with continuing their post-secondary education after earning their high school diploma. We have a pretty thorough application process because we want to ensure success in the program. And so the potential students start out by completing an online application on our website, which includes a brief essay. From that point, if they continue on in the process, they're granted access to a 2-week prerequisite course, which counts as part of the high school program to see how they do, if it's a good fit. The last thing that we would want to do is, have someone not be successful in a program. We're really trying to find the right fit. And so if it doesn't seem to be the right fit, then Chris works with them to get them set up with a program that would be a better fit. For example, maybe the Rio Salato GED program where they can get in-classroom assistance, because self-paced online isn't for everyone, but it can be a huge benefit for someone, especially a family that, the only time that they have to work on their high school diploma is after they put the kids to bed, so that they can work on their laptop at home after the kids are asleep. After the 2-week prerequisite course is passed, then they continue on to do an interview with our team. If they are selected at that point, they have a 30-day trial membership. And that really helps us to make sure that the people in the program are the right fit, especially because it is kind of an expensive program. Luckily, we have secured funding from some great foundations that are making this possible, so we're able to provide these tuition waivers for people who are qualified for the program. We received funding from the Clinton Global Initiative, Freeport McMoran, and also the Steele Foundation, all of that through the fiscal management of the Phoenix Public Library Foundation. So for anyone who wants to get connected with the program, they can give us a call, go onto our website, or of course come down to the second floor of the Burton Barr Library to learn more and get connected.
Have any questions? I would recommend to every one of my colleagues to go visit the College Depot area and also see the online high school. It's very interactive. It's definitely set for that population that is busy, but can carve out a little time to do the online and self-pace and self-discipline to do it. And they do have a coach where there is some interaction if you do get stuck or you need some guidance. It's offered, so if anybody wants to go to the College Depot or the Burton Barr Library, please go. There are scholarships available currently, and I encourage anybody to go back to school as an educator, specifically from 19 and on, that would like to complete their high school diploma or high school degree, and then also go on. We will coach you to go on to possibly community college or the university, whatever your dreams are. So please. Go ahead.
One of the things I just really want to thank you for providing this service. I mean, it's something that the city of Phoenix should be providing. I mean, we have so many young people that are dropping out of school. They're not even completing 8th grade. And it's really, really sad to see that. And then if you look on the national level, we're one of the lowest when it comes to graduating from high school. And to have a prevention program like this, or a program that helps out, one of the things I would ask is there a way to get a list of all those individuals that apply for school at the very beginning and kind of drop out? Do they have can we provide, maybe get a list from the neighboring schools, from our libraries or so, that maybe we can actually try to go recruit those individuals? Or
We did meet with folks at the Phoenix Union High School District who do lead these efforts to figure out how we could work together in order to reach out to students who have dropped out of high school. And we are in discussion. And one of the things that they do is they have these dropout prevention specialists that continue to call the students up to a certain age. And so what we would like to do, we would just have to create some sort of memorandum of understanding with the school district that we could then take over that calling of those students who didn't make it.
And then the other thing too is I really like to thank that whole College Depot. I mean, it's incredible. You go in there, all the resources. I remember going to the grand opening, it was just a thought, and it's just expanded. Now it's not just at Burton Barr, but it's going throughout the city of Phoenix. And just really want to give you the kudos for all your hard work and all your dedication in that College Depot and how you extended it throughout the city. The other thing too is that is there a way that are we working with our after-school programs with the parks? I mean, we have the PAC programs and all that we, I know I work for a nonprofit organization, the Cesar Chavez Foundation, and we have empowerment centers or CISA centers in each of our housing complexes. And it's an after-school program, and the kids that we change their hearts. Our whole thing is if we can make sure that the eldest child of each family living in our housing complex makes it to college and ends up with a university degree, it changes the lives or generations to come. And it's through education that we end poverty, domestic violence, and gang violence. And I mean, what a great opportunity for us as a city to really change the directions of generations to come. So thank you so much for what you're doing. And if you could work along with the after-school programs, sometimes that communication within our own departments and stuff, and using all the resources to the fullest and creating what I call that Team Phoenix approach would be great.
Madam Chair, Councilman Nowakowski, thank you for that. We'll pursue that one, and we really appreciate your support and acknowledgement of the great work that Judy Reno and her team are doing in College Depot. Thank you so much.
And so when are we doing that dedication of Debbie Dillon's conference room?
Still haven't talked her into it.
I think we can just,
She's pretty persistent.
I think we can just do it. We'll invite her to it.
Sounds good.
We'll have a party.
Right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Let her know that we're having a party in honor of
Great
her,
behalf.
and she needs to show. I do also want to recommend, or anybody that is in the City of Phoenix system, if you would like to pursue this, please look into it. It is available to you. Use it as one of your education reimbursements. I highly encourage everybody to go back and get their education. So thank you for bringing
Can
this
I,
to us.
Madam Chair, if I could just mention also, I want to congratulate and thank you, Rita, and the entire team. We actually have a College Depot in the Palo Verde branch there in Maryville, and it's important that of course, it's important that we reach out to all of the branches, but Burton Bar is the main library, right on Central, and I think we've all been there many times. It's a beautiful library, but I especially want to thank you for doing these types of programs, thinking outside the box, as they say. While you're at Burton Bar Library, go check out the Hive, the free incubator where people can get the mentorship that they need, the resources they need to put some ideas to paper and maybe even create some jobs right here in the city of Phoenix. I do have a couple of questions on the Career Online High School here. Okay, so you did kind of mention how the outreach will be done. How can we let people know about this? So can you just cover that a little?
We can talk about some of the outreach that we've done.
Okay.
Judy?
A lot of the outreach that we've done so far is just through our partner organizations, and especially trying to expand our partnerships to reach more adult groups. And so if you guys have recommendations, we would love to add more to the list. But one of the best partnerships that we've had so far through this work is with the Phoenix Rescue Mission. They have been running a GED program as part of their services, and when the GED test changed and became dramatically harder last year, a lot of their students were struggling and looking for other avenues to continue their education, and so they were very excited, and they have an entire group of people through their program that they've been mentoring that they think will be a really good fit for this.
Okay, great, thank you, and I have some suggestions that I can send
That
your
would
way
be
as well. The funding, this is obviously a positive thing. Are you looking at other opportunities to increase funding, perhaps working with the private sector? I think of some of the champions that we've had in District 5, for an example, who've been, and I think of organizations like Grand Canyon University, who's certainly not afraid to get engaged with the community and possibly even help with programs like this. And of course, I would never speak for, but there are many organizations out there that might be willing to work with this program to help increase the funding so that, of course, more people can receive those scholarships.
Madam Chair, Councilman Valenzuela, yes, we are working closely with the Phoenix Library Foundation to identify other organizations that might be interested in helping with this program. We think there will be a lot of interest. It was fairly easy to get the current funders involved. They definitely see the value.
Powerful
So
mission for sure.
it is. And the foundation's Dinner in the Stacks that we do every year in the fall, the program that we're going to highlight this year is College Depot. So we'll be able to spread that word even further to many other funders.
Well, thank you for your work and your commitment.
Thank you.
Councilman Nowakowski?
So what is the tuition for this, or what's the price tag that we're looking at?
$1,295 per student.
And the funding, how much funding do we have for, or how many students can we actually fund now?
75.
75. Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all your good work.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hearing no further comment, we will move to on the agenda, item 15, out-of-school program standards. And this one is for action.
Paul Blue.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, as we have shared with you the priorities for education and the city's influence on that, whether it is reading by third grade, it is college readiness, college completion. Clearly, one of the most important things is in the times when students are not in the classroom and sometimes engaged with us, we have not yet had standards for the kind of curriculum and teaching that occurs in those venues where there are city programs, whether it's in the libraries, in the parks departments, in the human service programs, et cetera. And so here today is Tim Valencia and a guest, which he will introduce to discuss with you staff's recommendation for adopting a standard for incorporation into city programs. Tim?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I do have Melanie McClintock, the Executive Director with the Arizona Center of After School Excellence. This has been a long couple of years in the making to get these quality standards here within the city of Phoenix, and especially vetted. But I would like to introduce Melanie to give a brief overview of the organization.
Good morning. The Arizona Center for After School Excellence is a statewide nonprofit organization. We serve as a resource and advocacy center promoting quality, affordable after-school programs. We are one of 47 statewide after-school networks nationally that are partially supported by the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation out of Michigan. And in our work over the past 20 years, it became very clear to us a couple of years ago that the importance of after school had increased dramatically as resources were being squeezed out of our formal school system, as more parents were back in the workforce and children needed more than childcare after school. So when we're referring to these programs, we're literally referring to programs serving children K through 12. And we are looking at addressing their social and emotional needs and aligning the informal quality learning that should occur in a quality after school with the formal learning that occurs in the classroom. We talk about the 2 R's of after school, where there are 3 R's in the classroom. There are 2 R's in after school, meaning relevancy and resiliency. So in an after school program, we want there to be those hands-on project-based initiatives that give relevance to what's learned in the classroom so that children are more engaged and they see the direct application of what's being taught in the classroom. Secondly, the resiliency is the classroom can be a very harsh place because you have your grades. So if you're not the math student and you get the consistent D and you're labeled as the dumb kid in math, you realize that you can get knocked down and be picked up. So if you're doing a race car in an after-school program, it doesn't go as fast. We give them the opportunity to redesign the race car and have it go faster. And that resiliency is really what leads them to success.
And with the Arizona Center for After-School Excellence, obviously, they convened a statewide committee and created a framework around these quality standards in 7 key areas. And the City of Phoenix is actually piloting an assessment tool within our PAC program, within the Parks Departments, to further the assessment that will go statewide in the summer. I did, those quality standards are right there. There's 7 quality standards. There are safe and healthy environments, positive relationships, intentional programming and activities, equity and inclusion, family, school, and community program management, and then program evaluation and data. One thing in your packet, there are specifically under each standard or each quality standard up there specifically what that entails. If you have any questions on those specific standards, one thing the Youth and Education Office did do was that we did convene all our departments. We have several out-of-school programs, as Paul mentioned earlier, from our Human Services Department, Parks, Police, Fire. They all were in consensus that these quality standards were needed and are looking to move forward to officially adopting these standards citywide.
Councilman Waring has some questions.
I do. So I did look at these standards, and so did you say there's some measurement tool to measure these standards?
Yes, sir. This is a.
Do we have a copy of it?
We can get you a copy, absolutely. This is a.
And that'd be helpful, because a lot of this, so frankly, I went through it. I think I found, out of all these items, so there are 8 on the first bullet point, 6 on the second, 6, 4, and then 5. I mean, I see the words. I read English, so I understand what they say, but strung together, I'm not sure how anybody would measure them. So without the standard, without the measurement tool, I'm not willing to commit to this, quite frankly. Don't want to waste people's time and money, except there are 3 on standard 1, the safe and healthy environments. Right. So these are programs that are run by the city at city facilities, or they are not necessarily. What programs are we talking about? I'll just put it that way.
I do have that list of programs. In our Parks and Recreation Department, it's the PAC After School. They hold various youth classes within their community centers.
Those are city workers, or they are?
There's a mix, yes.
They're city workers.
Correct.
All right, so we have city programs, because here's your first 3. All staff and volunteers submit the background checks and fingerprint clearance. Are you saying that there are city programs where people are working with kids who are not fingerprinting people?
No, these are.
Oh, good. This is already something we're doing.
Right, and that's why it's so easy to adopt these standards. These are just across the state. We're doing all these standards. We're just officially adopting them.
So, because I mean, the first 3, staff implements policies, procedures, and supervision to maintain safety. I was sort of hoping that everything was safe. We're not intentionally doing programs that aren't safe. All right, so that makes me feel slightly better, but of course, to my mind, means maybe we didn't need to do this exercise. But the rest of it, I'd like to see how you're measuring healthy lifestyles and behaviors are promoted, because that's a rather amorphous blob of words. I mean,
So
are we measuring
I would
caloric
assume-
intake? I mean, what are we doing?
I'm going to make an assumption, and you guys can correct me. I'm assuming healthy lifestyle, so what we offer at the after-school programs as snacks is a healthy choice, meaning there are healthy choices for the youth to pick from, a variety of healthy choices. So like an apple, a banana, a drink, water.
The Parks Department also offers a nutrition program, and I do have our city departments also supporting this effort. But we do offer specific programming around nutrition on healthy choices. Within Parks, we also have Fit Phoenix that Valenzuela has Councilman Valenzuela has led and is currently leading that incorporates all these within our work within the Parks Department.
Okay, so bottom line, you're saying we're doing all this stuff already.
Correct.
Wait,
We're doing,
I thought I saw somebody say, I saw 2 yeses and a no, I think.
Well, she's going statewide, and so her mission is to
Well, I
make
guess when I
sure.
say we, City of Phoenix, that's all I can really
so I think
vote on to
certain,
control here.
I think certain departments are already doing pieces of these standards. We are now looking at all departments that have activities with the youth to standardize all our healthy choices or our standards throughout all our programs. Right now, we're piloting in the after-school program. And so all the different other programs that are happening are not, pieces of it are in standards, but not all of it are in
The
standards.
bottom line is creating a common.
Can I stop right there?
Sure.
Because,
I know you're gonna-
because what she,
'cause I just
she
messed you
said,
up.
I thought contradicted what you said before.
Yes.
It did. What she said contradicted what you said.
Here is.
See?
No, but I don't think, these standards are not in all our programs.
All these standards, there are pieces within each
Right,
program.
okay.
So within the Parks Department, I'm going to use the Parks Department, they have various activities that individuals come and go at their own volition. So it is, and one of these standards would be the targeted curriculum. Well, that piece of that standard necessarily doesn't fit into the open gym and open sports, but the safety, the standards around staffing and professional development does. So each pieces of these quality standards does fit a specific program. They're meant to standardize across the board and create a common language. So there are pieces within programs that the quality standard may not fit, but, and I can let Melanie answer this, they're meant to be flexible.
Let me ask, so we have an open gym, parents drop off the kids, say, I'm going to pick up in 2 hours. Not every kid's leaving at 2 hours. There are some kids leaving after an hour because they've already been there or not staying as long, and so forth. If it's a league and the parent's dropping off the kid and the game's supposed to end in 2 hours and they're coming back, all the kids are leaving. I mean, I understand, I think I understand what you're saying about organized versus it's an open gym, come and go as you please. It's up to the parents to pick up or caregiver to pick up. But I guess that speaks to what I was getting at earlier. You know, we've got a lot of verbiage, and I don't even know how many bullet points. I listed off how many were under each one before, probably
if I
40
could-
or so. You know, 3 seemed like, I hope we're doing them everywhere. The ID, the background checks and fingerprint clearances, the safe environment, and written health and safety policies for families to understand, you know, for families. I mean, if I take my kids to, you know, a play park or something, invariably I'm signing 3 pages of forms with liability and assumption of risk and so forth. I assume that's kind of what we're talking about here and what the expectation is, or they're going to kick you out if you're misbehaving, doing something dangerous. So that part I understand. I was hoping we're doing it all the time, and I think you confirmed that we are.
Within our PAC after school program, absolutely.
Right. So, you know, the rest of it, I guess I'd need to hear more about how we're measuring this and so forth. So rather than chew up everybody's time with the,
Would you like a briefing?
I will just, yes, why don't I have a briefing?
Okay.
I'll just vote no for today, and then we can discuss it
Yeah.
later.
Yeah,
That
I
seem
think,
fair?
Because-
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, Vice Mayor, I think the biggest picture is we do not have a commonality to how we want to treat out-of-time school programs that the city is engaged in. We're trying to create standards that allow us to commonly know how we're going to design programs. Not all of our programs are designed exactly to fit this. Not every standard is applicable to every program, but we feel like we need to start somewhere so we have a consistency.
I guess, you know, sometimes you know, some of these, the background checks, that's meritorious. Nobody's going to argue with that, or certainly I'm not. You know, if it means the volunteer coach can't bring cupcakes to the team because that violates some policy. But see, I mean, you're shaking your head, and I understand that, but I don't have the thing in front of me. You know, what are we actually measuring? How are we enforcing this?
Vice
so
Mayor, Councilman
So-
Pastor, Vice Mayor, we'll come and brief you, but I think the goal here is to create a framework for success for how we can best deliver standards of, particularly focused on education in our programs that create the greatest opportunity to supplement what happens in the school, but within a flexible regime that allows us to make sure we can do what our intention is for our programs. And so we'll come to you, share with you what we know and hear, and can get your continued feedback.
Well, I can tell you with great assurance, whatever day that briefing takes place, that will be the highlight of the day. So I'm looking forward to it.
Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Waring, we'll make sure it's.
And we'll make sure that we bring a healthy snack.
Yeah, bring a healthy snack.
Yeah, there is action on it.
But
Councilman
little campaign
Nowakowski.
finance team, don't bring $50 in healthy snack, because I don't want to get in trouble.
Of course not.
Yeah, all right, good. Thanks.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Well, first of all, I just really want to thank you all for creating a culture of quality quality standards throughout our after-school programs and throughout all of our departments. I think that's one of the things that we were lacking is some type of standards that not just the Parks and Rec or our different departments, but all departments can actually follow some type of a matrix before we create something, that we go through this matrix to make sure that all the boxes are checked. So I really want to thank you for that hard work. I think that's one of the things that was lacking. We were doing such great work, but we had different programs going on in South Phoenix, on the west side, east side, and North Phoenix. Now we're going to have a standard that all of our children are going to be brought to on an equal basis. So I like that, and I like the creating that culture. And I think it's something that's really important, and it's a part of our growth. I mean, we're finally growing up, and we're the 6th largest city in this country, and we're starting to act like it. So thank you so much. And I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation on this.
Second.
All those, any other questions? No? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor,
No.
say no.
Sorry, it's just the way you're saying, those not in
started off
favor.
so good.
It's a positive spin against, it's a positive spin, better than against.
Thank you. Appreciate it. At this time, it's called to the public. Are there any comments, any questions? Nothing? I do want to say one last thing before we adjourn. I would like to thank Lisa Takata for all her dedication to the city of Phoenix and her work. It's 27 years, Lisa. She is retiring as of Friday, and we just had to give her one last one on this board committee. And so, Lisa, I really would like to thank you for all your service. You have done tremendous work here. I hope to see you in the future at a different capacity, and you're more than welcome to come visit.
Only 27 years?
No, I want to also, if I may,
Get another 27 years in, yeah? Come on.
Got another 30.
yeah, Lisa, thank you for everything that you've done for the city. I've been here for 3 years, and I know enough about your leadership that I just know that we need more of it. We want more of it. You inspire us to be better leaders. You are an incredible mentor. You're very kind with your time and your knowledge, and some of the toughest issues that this city has faced in the last 3 years. You have a way of working through these issues, and you bring out the best in all of us to do it, keeping decorum and everything else. So leading by example. So thank you so much, and I hope we get to work with you in a different capacity. But if not, that's fine. Enjoy your retirement. You deserve it. Congratulations.
I was wondering why we had 18 items.
One last one. And enjoy your family. And really enjoy. Are there, Councilman Nowakowski, you had asked for an item to be on our agenda. We're working on the budget piece, and that is for the future. Anything else for future items? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Come on.